And hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of My Isolation Podcast. And today we'll be talking about Nimona, the brand new animated movie that premiered on Netflix a couple of weeks ago. I believe it premiered on Netflix on... When did its film come out exactly? Let's check the release. Came out on June 30th. Oh, wow, so it's been out for a long time. Well, not for a long time, it's just been out for a while. Almost a month. And I'm only just getting around to talking about it now. Mainly because I didn't even know this film existed until I was seeing people posting stuff about it on Instagram. So I saw some posts on there and I thought, you know what, I want to check this Nimona movie out. And yeah, so I checked it out. So it was getting pretty good reviews. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 94%, which is probably one of the highest I've seen a Netflix original movie. Most of the time, Netflix's original movies don't really get very high review scores, with the exception of a couple. But this one was getting quite a lot of love and quite a lot of praise as well. So I thought, you know what, let's check it out. Let's bite the bullet and let's check out this movie. So I did that, and before I go into my opinion of the movie, I just want to go into the quick production history of the film, because it's actually quite an interesting production history. So Nimona is based on a graphic novel, written by 2015 graphic novel written by N.D. Stevens. It's like a sci-fi fantasy kind of world, but influenced by the Middle Ages. And it was in production for a long time. In fact, originally it was supposed to be developed by Blue Sky Studios. You know, the guys who made the Ice Age movies and everything, and Spies in Disguise, Epic, and that movie about the parrot whose name I cannot remember, unfortunately. So yeah, they were supposed to do. Yeah, Blue Sky was supposed to direct it. Was supposed to complete it and make it, which made sense, I guess, because Blue Sky was before their cancellation they were on a roll of producing good movies. I mean, obviously like before they were known as the Ice Age guys, and the first Ice Age movie was really good. I really loved that movie. I still do. But those sequels were just terrible. Was horrible, really. The only sequel I really liked was Ice Age 3. The rest of them were just bad. And yes, I have watched a lot. I have watched all the Ice Age sequels. And they were just all really bad. Really, and they couldn't really compete with the original. But then they did Epic, and that was okay. And then they did the Peanuts movie, the Charlie Brown movie, back in 2015, and that's pretty much everything kind of changed with Blue Sky. Then they started making much better movies, like Spies in Disguise, and which was actually a really good movie. I watched that on. I didn't watch that in the cinema, but I did watch it on Disney Plus when it came out on the streaming service, because obviously Blue Sky was owned by 20th Century Fox. Actually, it was 20th Century Fox's animation department. And then obviously when Disney brought Fox, they acquired Blue Sky as well. And so this movie was in development for a long, long time. In fact, it was announced in 2015, which is quite bizarre. And then it was scheduled for a 2020 release. And then obviously Disney brought Fox, which made them acquire Blue Sky. And then obviously they were still working on the film even to that very day, and they were quite close to completing it. And obviously it got delayed to 2022 release date. And unfortunately though, as everyone's probably, if you've looked this up, you're aware of it, in 2021 Disney shut Blue Sky down and the film was cancelled. Obviously everyone was very upset by it. And there were a lot of reasons, obviously, them shutting down Blue Sky was a bit of a weird decision, really, which I don't get it even to this very day. And there were people, talking about how, they were very close, they were very on track, to finishing the film. Chloe Grace Moretz and Riz Ahmed was, I hope I pronounced that name right. But yeah, Riz Ahmed was set to voice Nimona and Ballister Blackheart, who I'm going to be referring in this movie as Bal, just to make things easier. So that happened, and there was lot of weird reasons for it. But the one main reason is because if you watch the movie, obviously there's a lot of LGBTQ plus representation in the movie. And there's a love you scene where Bal and his lover, they say I love you. They even share a kiss in the movie. And this would have been Blue Sky's first LGBTQ plus movie, at least their first one with that kind of representation in it. Because obviously, I believe there was a lot of representation in the graphic novel as well. I believe anyway. I mean, I've not read it, but from what I've looked up and read up on, there seems to be a lot of representation in the graphic novel as well. And apparently, a lot of anonymous kind of at least 3 former Blue Sky staff members have said that apparently it was received push that scene actually received pushback from Disney because of the LGBTQ plus themes and the same-sex kiss. And obviously in March 2022 there was that whole "Don't Say Gay" bill that was going around Florida. That's when they made the comment on, because obviously Bob Iger wasn't really making any. There was a lack of criticisms from Bob Iger. No, not Bob Iger. Sorry, Bob Chapek. There's too many Bobs, and Disney has too many Bobs. We got to eliminate the Bobs. I'm joking. That's a joke. That's a joke. But there was quite some pushback from Disney, and which makes sense because Disney, they're not. They like to think that they're LGBTQ plus. They support that stuff, but really it's just any LGBTQ plus characters that Disney has, usually background characters that can be easily edited out. For release in another country where that kind of stuff is banned. So that makes sense, I guess, and it's quite a shame, really. And then that Disney cancelled it, and that Blue Sky was never able to finish it. But luckily, though, help came in the form of I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Annapurna Pictures. If I've pronounced that wrong, I do apologize. And Netflix, because obviously they were shopping the film around to different studios to help them try and finish the movie, because they were that passionate about the film. They were that passionate about the movie. They were doing anything they could to get it finished, which makes me appreciate an artist's integrity even more. Those are the kind of artists that I appreciate, the ones that don't give up and they push and fight for their creative vision. For their project that they've worked so hard on to get out there and get made, and which is very inspiring. Because a lot of times when you get a lot of projects and never see the light of day, they get announced, and then for one reason or another, gets cancelled, and they try and find another home for it, but it just doesn't happen. But I admire the artists that are able to fight for their project, fight for their vision, and able to keep their art alive, and so they can see the light of day and have us look at it and review it and talk about it, and whether it's positive or negative, that stuff doesn't it's about wanting to get your voice heard and get your voice out there, basically, and Netflix required it. I think it was in April 2022 it was announced they required it because they were almost done. They were pretty much on track to finishing it in 2021 before Disney cancelled it. And shut down Blue Sky, and they said it would release in 2023, and apparently Annapurna's new division, Annapurna Animation, it's actually a new division, and this is the first film under that new division, which is quite cool. And then they announced more cast members. Obviously, Chloe Grace Moretz and Riz Ahmed were able to stay on, and they announced even more cast members for the film, and now it's been released. Netflix saved the production, and I'm really glad they did, because overall I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was powerful. The characters were really good and had some really great emotional kind of moments. And this is the kind of movie that this is why we watch. This is the reason why we go to watch animation. Basically, this movie pretty much sums up this Spider-Verse, the Mario Brothers movie, as well as hopefully that upcoming Teenage Mutant Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie that's coming out in just a few weeks, actually. That's coming out soon. this is the reason why why we love animation. That these movies are just they're beautifully told and they're beautifully made, and these artists, they're so passionate about their work and their craft. The animators, they're so passionate passionate about it, and it's one of those things where you can see that like it's like when me and Alex were talking about the song of animation you can by Harry Partridge, I believe that song was made by, where he was just singing about his love for animation and how with animation you can do pretty much whatever you want, and it's right, you can do whatever you want with animation. And it's great, and with animation you can see whenever it's hand drawn, cel shaded, like this animation style kind of, which we'll get into in a little bit, or typical CG animation, like what Disney's doing nowadays, or what Pixar's been doing for the past, like, how many years Pixar has been operating. I haven't seen Eternal yet. Elemental, sorry, I haven't seen Elemental yet, but I really do want to. I've not gone around to it yet. I'm probably going to end up having to watch it on Disney Plus, which is a shame because, I do think I really don't want animated movies to resort to being stuck on a streaming service. Even though I'm glad Netflix saved the production, in many ways, but I really wish this movie came out in cinemas because this movie it looks fantastic. It's beautiful and it's gorgeous. The animation is just pops on the screen, and I wish this got a theatrical release so I could watch this animation in on the big screen in a cinema with with an audience, with good surround sound, and rather than just watching it on a laptop screen, which didn't take away the experience. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great movie. I just wish I could have seen this in theaters. I wish that they were able to give it a theatrical release, but unfortunately, we're going to have to settle for it being on Netflix, which is fine. You never know. Maybe it's some years down the line they'll do a theatrical release as like a celebration of the 20th anniversary or something like that. Which I hope I'm still alive by then, but God knows. But no, yeah, this movie looks good, and the animation in this movie is beautiful. It's gorgeous, and just I love this kind of unique kind of shell shaded look. Apparently, it was actually it was going to be one of Blue Sky's most complex films. Obviously, this is more of a kind of 2D stylization, kind of like it's similar to what Blue Sky did with the Peanuts movie, how it combined 2D and 3D together to kind of create this kind of unique design almost, and it looks great on screen. And I liked it when the Peanuts movie came out, and obviously we've got the this animation style is starting to make a bit of a resurgence, not much of a resurgence, but starting to get the appreciation it deserves. Because we've got the Spider-Verse movies that have used this animation. We've got the new Teenage Mutant Turtles Mayhem movie that's using this animation. We've got that new Disney movie Wish that's coming out this year. That's going to be I wouldn't say it's using this animation style, but it's got a new kind of animation style that's, I guess, it's kind of inspired in a way by this new look. And I'm glad that this is getting a lot more appreciation, because I remember when this kind of animation style was only really used back in the early. I remember this animation style being used in like the early 2000s mainly. I don't know, maybe this style was being used also in the 90s, but it's mainly the early 2000s that I remember this being used for, like TV shows like Spider-Man, the new animated series, the one where Neil Patrick Harris was voicing Spider-Man. And it was set after the first Sam Raimi movie, and yeah, so and it looked fine back then. I mean, it looked obviously, and of other shows as well, like Dragon Booster. Does anyone here remember Dragon Booster at all? But they were the ones who were that was kind of thing I remember this animation style being used most for. And particularly with those two shows, it looked very. It looked good, but it was a little bit stiff. Like, I was watching some clips on Dragon Booster the other day just for this episode to see how it looked, and the frame rate. I don't know if it was the quality or anything, but the frame rate, was very kind of choppy. Spider-Man New Animated Series' frame rate was all right, but it did look a bit stiff in places, and it sucks because there was actually a fan project that was going to come out that was Spider-Man new anime series continued, where they were going to carry on this style. And I saw that they showed some test footage that they did, and it looked so great. Like the movement was so much more fluid and much more just a lot more fluid and stuff like that. But unfortunately, that fan project has now been scrapped. They've not been able to get it off the ground, which sucks. But who knows? Maybe at some point in the future, maybe Disney Plus will revive it. I don't know. We hope so. We hope so, because they're desperate for content at the moment. Well, not really, because if anything, they're purging content at the moment, which is shocking. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So yeah, the animation style was really good, and the character designs were really great. And it just looked gorgeous, man. Like, it just looked fantastic. It's such a great, beautiful kind of style. And I'm glad, and like I said before, and I'm glad this style is getting the appreciation it deserves, because because it looks good. It's a good style, and it deserves more. And you never know. I don't think this is going to become the prominent animation style for future animated movies, but I do think it's a very welcomed addition to it's a very welcomed addition to the to the roster of animation styles, and hopefully we can live in a world where animation is on a good high right now. Really, like, we've got so many different animated movies coming out. We've got many different styles coming out. Like, we still have 2D movies being made where it's by Miyazaki, or there's actually a new one called The World's Divided. That's a filmmaker has made all by themselves. You should have a look at. I watched the trailer recently, and it's really good and really beautiful. They turned down a Marvel Studios TV series, a Disney Plus series, to work on it. But then again, I don't think anyone would take up one of those, because the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series haven't been very good. Like, they start off good, but then you get to those finale. Like I said in the first episode, you get to the finales, and it just explodes, just destructs. It doesn't work. It ends up not working properly. Though that being said, of Secret Invasion, so far, at the time of recording this, the 5th episode of Secret Invasion just aired. That show is looking pretty good. Seems one of the more solid ones, but it's a shame they've not advertised it enough, because apparently the numbers aren't doing very well. It's almost like, if you don't advertise your show and not let people know that your show's happening, people aren't gonna watch it. But we'll get on to that. I might do Secret Invasion in the next episode, or Barbie, but we'll get on to those at the very end, when I tell you about what the future plans are for the future episodes. But yeah, I've rambled on for ages, but yeah, the animation style, it's beautiful and it's gorgeous, and I wish this got a cinematic release, because I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen. But what can you do? We'll have to sell for it on a laptop screen or a TV screen of some kind. The story was great. The LGBTQ plus themes fit real in the narrative. About narratives, like the structure about being an outsider and being shunned for being different, which was mainly shown through Nimona and Bal as well, because obviously Bal in the part of the story, he's known as a commoner. Unlike all the other knights, which are a descendant. So he's the first commoner to achieve knighthood, and a lot of people are in doubt about that. Like, a lot of people are like, I'll believe it when I see it. This isn't what Glorif would have wanted. You really see that the themes of the LGBTQ plus themes of being being shunned or being hated for being different really shine through with the two main characters anyway. With Bal and Nimona, and that's really what puts them well together, in a way, and that's what makes them a good pairing for this movie. And talking about the characters, they were really well done, and again, it was good to see. It was good. One of the things I'm really happy about with this movie, and probably one of the main reasons why I'm guessing they decided to not go with a I don't know if this is the main reason why I didn't go with a theatrical release. But obviously, it was great. It was just great to finally see an LGBTQ plus couple actually portrayed properly in one of these movies, because a lot of times, particularly these animated movies, whenever they have LGBTQ plus representation, or an LGBTQ plus character, or an LGBTQ plus couple, normally it's never actually. It's either hinted at, it's never brought up until the very end, like Paranorman, which is a good movie. Paranorman's a fantastic movie. I just wish that, because obviously Paranorman has a gay character in it, but it doesn't. That's never established until like the very very end, which sucks because I feel like I wish that was established before before the end, rather than like leaving it as like a surprise. I mean, it did lead to a funny joke, but I kind of wish that it was I kind of wish it was I kind of wish it was established much further in the film. So like they're either they're either in the background, it's either hinted at, it's either not established until the very end, or you get to movies like Lightyear, where like obviously where like the LGBTQ plus character is a secondary character, and they end up getting killed off like the main character in Lightyear, which was a very emotional scene. Don't get me wrong. But again, it falls into that trope of it falls into the I don't know if anybody, I'm pretty sure people know about this trope, but there's a trope called killing your gays, where they'll introduce a queer character to just kill them off, which isn't I guess it's not a bad trope by any means necessary, but it is one of those things where I kind of wished it wasn't like the norm for queer characters. I wish we'd have some queer characters that would stay alive and not die. But I mean, obviously the story calls for it. But I just wish that I just wish that that didn't I just wish that wasn't really a trope, if anything. So that happens, or you get to Strange Worlds, where obviously you have who's the character in Strange Worlds again? Ethan. You have Ethan, who has who obviously has his love interest, Diazo. Diazo. That's it. Diazo, where it's established that there's a romantic connection with those two, but it's never really focused on. Like Diazo shows up at the beginning. He's mentioned a few times in the middle, and then they show up at the end where they're a couple. But it's like it's never established. It's never really focused on. It's just kind of. It's like he's gay, and then they just kind of toss it aside and don't really do much with it. Unlike if that was like a straight couple, they would have actually focused on it. And I get why, because obviously you've got like other places and countries in the world that are anti-LGBTQ plus, and they ban that kind of content in their countries. But I don't know. I kind of wish we were in a world where more animated movies were willing to kind of take the plunge and kind of have their queer characters in the front and center and have them be properly portrayed and represented. And that's what I liked about this movie. They were actually like Belle and Ambrosius. I think that's how you pronounce it. So Belle and Ambrosius' relationship were really great. Seeing from the very first scene where Ambrosius is I really like that first scene, because actually where he comes up to Belle and he's comforting him, and he holds his hand, and he says they're going to see you the way I see you, and then Belle kind of tilts his head on Ambrosius' shoulder, and that's kind of I love that scene, because that's kind of the filmmakers' kind of way of saying we've got a queer character. Yes, they're a queer couple, and we're going to focus on them throughout the whole film, and this is their story, and I really like that. I really like that aspect about it, and I really liked them as a couple. I thought they were really good. I thought their story was really heartbreaking and really emotional. Especially when Belle gets framed for killing the Queen, and Ambrose has to turn him in, and you really see, especially when I call him Ambrose. Sorry about that. Ambrosius. That's it. Ambrosius. That's the name. And when Ambrosius has to chop off Belle's arm, and and then so Belle has to have a mechanical arm, and it was really heartbreaking to see. And you saw like when Nimona's kind of calling Ambrosius out, and Belle's kind of sticking up for him and going, this is my, he's more than that. He had to do it because of the institute. It's what we were trained to do. Kind of defending him, because he's his, Ambrosius is his lover. And what I really like about it, about that, is that essentially the whole story is just really, I don't even think the whole story is really about Belle trying to regain his knighthood, or anything, regain his knighthood or anything. I think he just wants to be reunited with Ambrosius, really, and that's really what he's fighting for. He's not fighting for his knighthood. I don't think even by the end he doesn't really care about that. He just wants to be with Ambrosius. He wants to be with his boyfriend, with his lover, and it's just a really sweet and just really sweet and emotional kind of relationship between the two of them. And you do feel kind of a good sadness, particularly in the bar when they're arguing about Nimona, and Ambrosius has been brainwashed by the general, making them believe that Nimona's the monster that Galora fought at the start of the movie, which helped create their world, and why they've got a wall built around the world, and no one's allowed out of the wall. You see them arguing. And Ambrosius says the line, "I love you." I don't think we've ever really had a "I love you" moment between a queer couple, particularly not in an animated movie anyway, or a Western animated movie. Anyways, I could be wrong. There may have been a movie that came out that I'm completely glossing over, and if there is, let me know. But that was such a sweet and loving moment. That their bond between the two of them it was just heartbreaking to see. And Bal's a character as well. It's a really, he is a good character. He is a great character. He's a very likable character. You root for him throughout the whole film. You want him to clear his name. You want him to be reunited with Ambrosius, and you feel for him because obviously he was framed by the general for being, for being different, for not being, for obviously being a commoner and not being a descendant. Which I guess, which you could probably see as which could be seen as a theme of racism, for it, or a discrimination, because obviously Bal isn't a descendant, he's a commoner, and the general's reasoning is basically being, oh well, it goes against our traditions, it goes against this and that, which could be a form of which could be seen as a theme of power and discrimination towards people who aren't towards people who aren't born into power, basically for the normal everyday person. I really like that, and for him, his arc, for being framed and killing the queen, it's real executed, and you get his sadness and you get his pain. Seeing the man that he loved now hunting him, the man that he loved being the reason his arms cut off, and you really get that sense he just wants to clear his name so he can be with Ambrosius, and that was a really sweet kind of arc for him. But obviously the standout character is the main character, because she's the character that this movie is named after, and that's Nimona. Nimona was a great character. This was I forgot to mention, actually, going back to Bal very quickly, Riz Ahmed did a very good job voicing him as well. I think this was a very good vocal performance from him. And with Nimona, it was the same with Chloe Grace Moretz. This is definitely a very great vocal performance from her. I was watching some behind-the-scenes stuff earlier where she was doing the vocal, the vocal performance, recording her vocals for the movie, and she does a very good job with it. She handles the material very well. You can tell she's getting into character. And this is probably probably one of the best performances, really. I mean, Chloe Grace Moretz is a fantastic actress anyway, so she always gives a great performance. I remember watching her, back in 2010 when Kick-Ass came out, which was crazy to think that came out such a long time ago. I went to the cinema to see that as well. Good movie, Kick-Ass. The sequel, not so much. Stay away from the sequel. But watch the first one because it's a good movie. But yeah, she was really well done. She was very likable, and just a very kind of iconic and a very heartfelt character. She was really funny too, really funny. And I think a lot of that comes from, again, Chloe Grace Moretz's performance, and she's able to handle the comedy very well because she's very quick-witted and quippy kind of character. She's constantly making jokes, constantly kind of transporting around the set to different places 24/7 due to her ability to shapeshift. Normally a character like her would get annoying after a while, but I never got annoyed by her, not even once in the movie. I think a lot of that it also has to do with her chemistry with Riz Ahmed, with Bal. They work well together, And I love the dynamic. I love how again it's something we've seen before, where the main character, this character gets introduced to another character. It's something that Blue Sky it's something that Blue Sky has done kind of before. Typically the first Ice Age movie, where Manny meets Sid, and Sid gets on his nerves for the first half of the movie, and then by the end of it they become friends. Obviously Diego's in that movie as well. But it's kind of a similar thing here, except there's no third person to interrupt the chemistry, and it just worked. It just worked really well together. They just worked really well together, and it was. And I think because of the chemistry between the two of them as well, that was what helped keep the comedy funny, keep the dynamic interesting, and kind of prevented the character of Nimona from getting annoying. Because a character like Nimona could have reached annoying levels if not done right, but they did it right in this one, and it just works really well. And her design looks really great too. She reminded me a lot of Midna from Twilight Princess. For those of you who don't know what Twilight Princess is a Legend of Zelda game. Where Link turns into a wolf, and he gets accompanied by a character called Midna, and that's what Nimona's design kind of reminded me of, particularly when she does that really evil-looking smile and you see like her teeth. That kind of reminded me a lot of Midna from Twilight Princess. You never know. I don't think anyone's mentioned that during the production of this, if that was their aim. I've not seen anything. I've not seen anything where they've mentioned that, but anything about that possibly being a inspiration for the character, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Or maybe that kind of look for the character is just a really well done, like it's a common look for these kind of movies. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But it looked really well. It looked really good and looked really well done. And I was really happy with her design. It looked really cool. I had to take a drink of water, sip of water for a second there, because I've been talking for ages and my throat's my mouth's getting sore. She looked really well. Her design looked really cool, and the shapeshifting was really good. I really liked how they kept it kind of a hidden thing. Like they kept it a secret for the first half of the movie, and then when she's breaking Belle out, that's when she notices. That's when she starts to do it. She morphs into so many different animals, and the animation is gorgeous for her transformations. They're very well designed. They look cool, they look unique, and it's just a really cool power. It makes her a very cool looking character. And overall, and she got a lot of good emotional moments as well, which we'll get into later on down the line in a little bit. The villain of the movie, the director, was a great villain. I loved, again, like as I said before, I loved how she hated the fact that Belle was a commoner and not a descendant. So she decided, you know what, we need to get rid of this guy. I've got to frame him. I've got to frame this guy. We've got to get rid of him, throw him in prison, that stuff as well. Which obviously, again, worked into the themes of, it could, like, obviously, because obviously of the controversy that Belle faced, like the hatred he was getting. And the people going, we don't trust this guy. Why is he why is this commoner a knight? Why is he not a descendant? Stuff like that, because they're so used to the traditions and the rules of this world that they anything different, anything new that gets brought up, they don't immediately trust it. And obviously, it can be seen as like I said before, it could be seen as like that could be seen as a metaphor for racism or homophobia or any kind of discrimination, really. And seeing her be all kind of, slimy and cunning, trying to control the narrative, like when, she finds out about Nimona and she tries, driving this narrative that Nimona is evil, but Belle knows the truth, knows that Nimona is not a villain, not really. And, and just her, her greed and just to kind of hold on to this kind of power that she has. And, she's very power hungry, very power heavy. And that shows that, again, like power dynamics as well, like power, like how people up in power, how people up in power look down on the people that they're in control of. And I really enjoyed that. I liked that about the movie. I liked that about her character as well. And she was just a good all around bad guy. And that's kind of again it was the kind of bad guy that I've been waiting for in these kind of movies that you don't really get a lot now, where I mean, they're starting to come back now, but for a while it was kind of the sympathetic villain, and this villain was not a sympathetic villain. She was a old school. I hate new things. I like power. A proper old school bad guy that you generally just do not like, and you're just there like, she's evil, she's pure evil, and I just love it. And again, obviously, like not the same, like she's evil and she knows she's evil. Obviously, she believes that she's doing the right thing, and that she's got the right mindset. But obviously, we as the audience know that that's not the case. And again, I just love. I'm glad they didn't go with the whole sympathetic villain kind of thing that anime movies have been going with for the past couple of years, and they kept it to her just being a typical kind of old school kind of villain that you don't like her and you want to. So with like obviously we don't find out that she's the villain until halfway through the film when the squire shows in the video of her swapping the swords, but. When you do find out, you're like, oh, hang on, this bitch, all right, let's take it down, and yeah, it was just really, she was just a great villain overall, and a very entertaining villain for the heroes to go up against. Last character I'm going to talk about is a character called Todd, who's basically your typical dude bro kind of character. Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, he has a very, as they say in the movie, he's got a very punchable face, and he does. He's one of those guys where he doesn't like the fact that Bal, got into knighthood as well. But he does have a little bit of a redemption arc towards the end where he puts some flowers on Nimona's grave. Well, Nimona's memorial, not grave, sorry, memorial. And he looks at Bal and Ambrosis, and he smiles at both of them, And yeah, so he has a little bit of a redemption arc, but and he has some good funny moments here and there. But overall, he was just again a typical dude, bro, and it just it's not a bad thing. But I think the idea was that you would find him irritating and annoying, but like again, I feel like again he just wasn't a very effective character for me. Just to go back to Ambrosis again, I thought Ambrosis was a really good character. He's a very good leader. He's a very likable character. His love and his care for Bal, you can really feel that in this movie, and yeah, so they're seeing their relationship, they go apart and they come back together, and seeing him start to kind of believe Bal and kind of understand like what he's doing, what he's going through, believe like at the very end, and realizing that actually the director has been lying to them the entire time, and yeah, so but yeah, he was a good character though, and I really liked his design as well. Like his design was really cool, like his kind of like his wavy blonde hair and everything that looked really cool. And again, his relationship with Bao was very sweet and very heartbreaking. But it was very heartbreaking seeing them apart. When they got back together, it was very sweet. The comedy in the film was also good. Again, the animation and the vocal performances worked well together to create some really funny moments between the two of them, like between characters, like when she's breaking out of prison, and she's making jokes, being like, "Oh, you can either be lonely, sad, or brooding in a place with no toilet, or you can come with me and I can break you out," stuff like that. Again, like jokes that again you probably get annoyed. You get annoyed usually by after a while, but because the chemistry between Chloe and Riz worked so well together, that it's able to make it not seem like it's able to make it not seem annoying and actually be able to make the jokes funny and entertaining. And obviously, you had other jokes as well, like when Ambrosis is freaking out over his new friend, like when Todd is driving up to the monster that Nimona has transformed into, and he sees her and he's like, "Oh, I'm a coward," and he just drives away. I thought that was really funny. A lot of the jokes with the squire, like they're trying to kidnap the squire. And Nimona transforms into the demon child. I don't know if anyone remembers the little demon child that she transforms into. And yeah, so like the comedy in this movie was really good. And obviously, and I get other scenes as well, like when they're like the dances session when they've uploaded the video to the internet and exposed the director for who she really is. or when they're staging kind of the thing, when they're staging, her trying to kill Ambrosis, and it's actually Nimona in disguise, and they're staging it, and she's pretending to die over and over again. That was really funny. And yeah, so overall, the comedy in this film really worked well for me. And so it was funny. It was good. It was well written. But the performances, I feel like, really did make it work and make it pop. And the animation as well also helped out as well, like with the transformation sequences and seeing the slapstick kind of comedy handle itself well. I really liked that. Another thing I want to comment on is the world. Actually, I really liked the mixture of sci-fi and medieval times. I thought it was a really good kind of mix between the two of them. Middle Ages. I thought it was a great mix between the two of them. Not since like I like films. I like anime films, particularly anime movies that do that. They take kind of these two time pieces and they kind of merge them together. Like, for example, my favorite Disney movie is Treasure Planet, and that obviously takes that obviously takes olden days of pirates and sailboats and stuff, and they mix that in with the future, and they kind of have this cool kind of good looking kind of steampunk kind of element to it, which I really like and I really enjoy. And I really liked how the world was created and how the world was crafted. I like seeing little things as well, like how they had like mobile phones, how they had cars, but they also had like spears and swords. I thought that was a great mixture between the two of them. I loved the kind of references to the tube, to because anyone who like, I currently live in London, so obviously I use the London Underground a lot, and I loved seeing that represented in this movie as as transportation. And yeah, so I thought that it was a good. I really liked the world. I liked the world. I think my only criticism with the world, really, and actually, wait, before I get to that, the way the animation made the world looked really cool as well. Like, again, this animation suited this style and this world really well. But the one criticism I have with it is that I don't think it built the world enough. There wasn't really a lot of world building in this movie. But again, the story and the characters and the jokes and the animation are all strong enough for me to forgive that. But I really would have loved to see the world expanded more and explored a little bit more. But even though, they kind of tease a sequel at the end, so we might get one at the end. I'll talk about the end which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, the world looked really cool. I wish it was the building of the world was a little bit better, but maybe they'll say that for a sequel. Who knows? Hopefully, this movie gets a sequel, and if it does, hopefully, it gets a theatrical release this time. Yeah. The film was also, and talking about the story, the film was also full to the brim of really great, heartfelt and emotional moments. Particularly, like again with Bal and Ambrosis, their relationship. Like they want to be together, but Ambrose has to hunt Bal, but he wants to be with him, and that was my Facebook, not yours. And yeah, so the emotional moments again between Bal and Ambrose was really good and really sweet. You wanted both of them to stay together. I've talked about it before, but it was such one of the best parts of the movie. Seeing their relationship, grow and evolve and develop, and seeing their relationship go through some tough times and everything. Nimona telling Bal how she wishes that she would just let people, stab a sword through her heart, because people are scared of her, they're afraid of her, which is a good theme, I guess, of mental illness as well. And people, because obviously at the very end they do have a number for mental health. I believe it's a mental health call line that you can number that you can call, which again I thought was really good, because again that fits into the theme of people who've experienced discrimination, and the LGBT, and particularly LGBTQ plus people have a lot, they do go through a lot of mental health problems due to the discrimination and constant hatred that they get, that that LGBTQ plus people unfortunately end up getting in the world. And even like and even like her her death, her fake out death, like when she raced up to the machine to sacrifice herself, and we all think that he passed away, that she ended up sacrificing herself, and that she wasn't coming back. And I generally thought, I'll talk about this a little bit earlier, but I generally like that scene was just that scene was heartbreaking. That scene was heartbreaking. To see that, we see this character that we've really liked, and that we've grown to love, and yeah, so and again, like these emotional kind of moments are actually, I'll save that to the very end, because I want to talk about the biggest emotional moment. The biggest emotional moment in this movie for me had to be when it was revealed that Nimona and Golorith were actually friends, which kind of implies that Nimona has been, how like old Nimona is. But they've been friends. They were friends. They were childhood friends, and then her parents found out about her being a shapeshifter, and they thought that she was some kind of monster, which I thought was really good and really effective. And like that scene where they're like prodding her with sticks and stuff like that, which is like which is mean and cruel, but you can definitely see people doing that. And how like they turned Golorith against Nimona for being different, because she was different, and people they're scared of humans. We're scared of what we don't understand. And that's kind of mixed in with the LGBTQ plus themes of of discrimination and everything. People are scared of Nimona because they don't understand her. And again, with LGBTQ plus people, you get these people who are who are scared of them because they don't understand sexuality or any of that stuff. And just shows again her connection with her and Bal, because obviously he's faced a lot of discrimination for being a commoner, for not being a descendant, and again it connected the two of them together really well, and just gave her a very dramatic and kind of heartfelt backstory. And it was just really sad to see that to see this beautiful friendship kind of in this shapeshifter who just wanted a friend. She finally got a friend, and that friend got taken away from her because her friend was initially brainwashed by her parents to fear Nimona, and then Nimona obviously turns to that big monster, and which obviously Golorith fights, which is told in the backstory. And yeah, and it's just a kind of emotional, really big and emotional kind of impactful moment. And seeing like when Golorith holds a sword to Nimona and tells her to get back, and it's just like it's painful to watch, really painful to watch, and just very dramatic and very heartbreaking to see. And the ending as well. Let's talk about the ending. So the ending, again, like I said, is very effective. Nimona sacrifices herself, and people kind of, she goes up towards, she tries impaling herself onto a spiked pillar, try and kill herself, just to spike her heart and to commit suicide. There's no way to say it. She attempts suicide at the very end, and then Bal stops her, like he held his hand to her heart when she's in the monster form, and he says, I'm sorry," and then she transforms back into a normal form, into a human form. And they have a hug and everything, and that's when I feel and people finally see Nimona for who she really is. People understand that actually, she's not a monster. She was just misunderstood. And again, like I know I was complaining about the misunderstood villain, but the thing is that again, Nimona is not a villain. That's the thing. Like Nimona is the director is a villain, but Nimona is not, and she was just misunderstood. People just didn't understand her, and then Bal kind of says, he gets it, he understands her, and he's, it creates this kind of, this really powerful kind of heartfelt moment that just melts your heart and just breaks it, and, seeing her, and then the very end, when she decides, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the people, because obviously the general has the gun that's going to destroy half the city, and then she sacrifices herself, and then we believe that she's dead. And for a while, I did generally think, did they really kill her off? Like that's quite, because they even say, this is not everyone gets the happy ending they deserve. And like Nimona didn't, and but obviously like Nimona did kind of get the happy end. Well, she didn't really, but people loved her, and it started to. She got the appreciation she deserved, but she just wasn't around to see it. And which again is very kind of heartbreaking to see, and And again, like these, and obviously, at the very end, he goes back to his hideout, he clears it out, and then she appears behind him, he sees her, she says hi boss, and then he says holy shit, and then it cuts off, which was quite funny. But the ending, which again was a very effective ending. It does kind of, I know they say, you don't always get the happy ending you deserve, but I'm glad that Nimona did get kind of a happy ending. That she's alive, she's around, she's come back, she's alive, she's not dead, so she can finally embrace and see the appreciation that the city has for her being. She's no longer the villain, she's the hero, and and now she can kind of appreciate that, and that's just so it warms your heart, and it's very heartfelt, and it's just this is the reason why we watch this. It's things like this why we watch animation. This is the reason. It's movies, it's moments like this that why we show love and care and appreciation for animation. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's moments like this, man. Like when you get like Spider-Verse, like when Miles sends Pete at home, or when he sees when he hugs his dad and he starts appreciating his school life, or when you get All Dogs Go to Heaven, when Charlie, says goodbye to Maria, and then goes back up to heaven, or when, or even The Land Before Time, like the whole thing, because that whole movie is just really sad, or The Secret of Nim. I know I'm listening a ton of Don Bluth movies, but Don Bluth was so good at doing stuff like this. It's a shame that Dragon's Lair movie he made didn't come to fruition, which is really fucking sad. I really hope that maybe Netflix could have picked it up like they picked up this movie, but no. Instead, they decided to they're going to do a live action version with Ryan Reynolds, which hasn't which I believe is probably been cancelled at this point. I don't think it's going to be made. They should have just picked up the animated movie that Don Bluth was going to make, but we can talk about that another time. But yeah, it's moments like this ending, and even the emotional moments in this movie that why we watch animation. Because with animation, again, you're not limited. There's no limitations. You're limitless with animation. You can do whatever you want. You can have whatever powerful emotion you want. You can do whatever theme or anything you really want with animation. And when you're given that limitless kind of freedom, you can turn out really good and just powerful pieces like this movie. And you can powerful emotional moments like the ending to this movie, or any of the other emotional moments that this movie has. And again, it's movies like this why we love animation. And there's a thing with animation where particularly with animation where these emotional moments hit you like way more stronger than would if the movie was in live action. Like the ending of Toy Story 3, for example. When Andy leaves the toys behind, he says goodbye to him. It's just it's really sad. It's really sad, and it is really sad how for a long time people just thought animation were just cartoons, just silly little cartoons that ran around on the screen, on the TV screen, and sorry about that. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's good just to allow a cartoon just to be a cartoon. Cartoons like that have their place. But I feel like we're in this era now where animation is finally, after being realized that actually it's not just Pixar and it's not just Disney that are doing these big, huge, emotional animated movies, that that it is other studios, and they're finally getting the recognition they deserve. I've still not seen Puss in Boots 2 yet. I really need to see that movie, but trust me, it's on the watch list. It is on the watch list, and from what I've been told, that movie just sounds just one. I'm probably gonna be an emotional wreck during that movie when I eventually get around to watching it. But yeah, and overall, I really love this movie. If you have there's a siren going out right now, so if you can hear that, I do apologize for that. But yeah, if you've got a Netflix subscription, honestly, I would give this movie a watch. It's fun. It's engaging, it's heartfelt, it's warm, it's charming. It's got actual proper LGBTQ plus representation in an animated movie. It's Pixar. If you want to do that next time, take notes. That's how you do it. But and yeah, it's just a nice, fun, charming animated film that I wish got a theatrical release, but we're just gonna have to settle for it being on Netflix. So yeah, if you've got a Netflix subscription, please give this movie a watch. put this movie on, give it a watch, and trust me, you'll have a really great time with this film. Overall, out of 5, I'm going to give it a 4, and out of 10, I'm going to give it an 8. I really enjoyed this film, and I think you will as well. And that's it for this episode. I'm just going to quickly delve into what my plans are for the future episodes. So obviously, I'm recording this on the 22nd of July, so obviously Barbie and Oppenheimer have just come out. I did say in the last episode I was thinking of doing a double bill. Unfortunately, due to just the cost of living crisis and everything else as well, that's not going to be happening anytime soon. So I'm just going to have to. It is just one of those things where I'm just going to have to pick one and go see one. After thinking about it, I am just probably going to go see Barbie, mainly because I love Christopher Nolan. He's a great filmmaker, but I don't know, man. That Barbie movie has got me intrigued. That Barbie movie has me interested. I've been reading and watching some reviews of it, and I'm like, what is it about this movie other than Greta Gerwig that has people up in arms about it? Like my sister today, actually, she went to go see it today and she loved it. But she's a big fan of Greta Gerwig's work. But even she was saying, how great this movie was. And I'm a big fan of Greta Gerwig's previous movies, like Lady Bird and Little Women. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. So I am probably going to see that one and do an episode on that one. I think Alex is going to join me for that one as well. So there'll be another, collaboration between the two of us. I'm also going to be doing an episode on Secret Invasion. I don't know if that episode will come out before Barbie or after the Barbie review and discussion. Hopefully, maybe it'll depend on whenever Alex gets around to seeing it or when I get around to seeing it. I might go see it tonight. I might go see it tomorrow instead. I'm not too sure. I've not really made up my mind yet. But I am going to go see Barbie. And that will be the next movie that we talk about. And then obviously next one after that will probably be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And then after that, I'll maybe delve into some old retro kind of stuff, like maybe review some old movies, maybe talk about stuff that's not like movie and TV related, like maybe talk about like games or something like that. And then after that, maybe Blue Beetle, if I've got enough fun, if the cost of living crisis hasn't gotten worse and I can actually afford to go see it. So I think that comes out in the UK in September. I'm going to try and go see it because that movie's going to bomb apparently. And apparently I was watching a comic book cast episode, a video today where Ahmed was talking about how apparently the director wanted to do like 2 days worth of reshoots on the cheap, nothing too major, just to try and make the film much more tighter than it is. And WB said no, which is really weird because so Aquaman gets reshot 4 times, but Blue Beetle, but the director of Blue Beetle who asks Blue Beetle can't even get 2 days of reshoots to tying things up and cleaning things up in the movie. Like that just again, like Armin said, that just shows that they have so much like lack of faith in the project, and it's just one of those things where you can just tell that they're trying to get out of this DC universe and just start again with Superman Legacy, which we don't know when that's going to be filming because we've still got the riots still on strike, actors are now on strike. I think the actors strike will probably end before the riot strike, unfortunately, because I feel like again with writers there are ways you can get around it. Unfortunately, there are ways you can get around not having writers, but with actors, there's no way you can get around that. Like you have to, you need actors, But again, I fully support the writers and the actors who are on strike. By the way, look, pay them fairly. Look, they give them the residuals that they need. We're in tights right now. Everything's going up. People need to feed families, pay rent. Give them the money that they need. That's what I say anyway. So yeah, I support the WGA and the Actors Guild as well. Fight the good fight and fight the power and all that stuff. And yeah, so that's my plans for future episodes. So hopefully people can stay tuned for that. And yeah, so last thing before I finish, because I keep forgetting to. The whole reason why I started doing this podcast in the first place, and I keep forgetting to do it recently. So for those who don't know, I have a bachelor and a master's in digital film and television production. Unfortunately, trying to find work in the film TV industry is really hard right now. And so I have a website. My website is linked down in the description below. Basically it just shows who I am, and if you want me to help you out, if you want me to help you out if you've got a film project like a short film or a web series or wherever you need and you need some help on it, I am willing to help you. Basically, I mean, there'll be more information on my website, and I might even make a little promotion video that I'll put at the start of each podcast episode somewhere down the line, just because I keep forgetting to advertise it. But yeah, in the description below, you'll find my website, you'll find my show reel, you'll find all the credits I have done thus far. Currently, I'm doing things on a voluntary basis, just because I'm not a freelance basis, just because I don't have a driver's license yet. I am in the middle of trying to get my driver's license sorted out, and then after I'm done doing that, I will then probably do a freelance basis. But right now I'm on a voluntary basis. So if you need somebody to help you out, even if it's for a day or 2 days, I'm your guy. I'm willing to help you. So yeah, so take a look at my website. If you're not working in film and TV, but you do like these podcast episodes, please share my website around. It'll really help me out. You don't have to be a regular viewer here. You don't even have to subscribe, really. But as long as you share my website around, I'll be happy. And yeah, that's it, everybody. That's it for this episode. And I'll see you all when I see you next.